All right, get ready because we're diving deep today. And you know me, I love a good deep dive. And today's subject, well, it's got feathers, it's got flash, and let's be honest, it's got a reputation for being all about those looks.
Oh, yeah, we're talking peacocks. But I think people will be surprised to learn just how much more there is to these birds than just their stunning appearance.
That's right. I mean, sure, we all know about those incredible tail feathers,
The train, they call it.
right, the train. But seriously, there's a whole lot more to uncover here. From the science behind those vibrant colors to their place in different cultures around the world and even, how they're doing in the wild.
Absolutely. We're going to look at the whole picture, get beyond those shimmering feathers, and really understand what makes a peacock tick.
I love that. So to kick things off, I think a little trivia is in order. Did you know the peacock's scientific name is Pavocristatus? Bet you could drop that at your next trivia night and impress everyone.
Huh, for sure. And while we're dropping knowledge bombs, they're actually part of the pheasant family. Oh, interesting. You wouldn't necessarily think that looking at them.
Yeah, native to the Indian subcontinent, but, thanks to humans, they're found pretty much all over the globe now.
That always makes me think introducing a species to a new environment, it can have such a big impact. Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a delicate balance. Sometimes it can help boost the local biodiversity, but other times it can really disrupt things.
Right. Like throwing a wrench in the whole ecosystem.
Exactly. And with peacocks, well, their impact really depends on the specifics of where they've been introduced. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of situation. Okay, so let's get to the heart of it, the main attraction. I mean, we can't talk about peacocks without talking about those incredible tails, those iridescent eye spots. It's like nature's own fireworks display.
Yeah, and the science behind those colors is pretty mind-blowing. It's not actually pigments that create those blues and greens and golds. It's structural coloration. Basically, these microscopic structures in the feathers refract light, kind of like tiny prisms. That's what gives them that shimmery, almost magical quality.
So they're basically living, breathing prisms, strutting their stuff. But really, what's the point of all that extravagance? Why go to all that trouble to be so flashy?
Well, it's all about attraction, right? The males use those elaborate trains to court the females. It's like their own personal dance floor.
Yeah, I've seen those videos. They fan those feathers out, shake them around, really put on a show.
Exactly. And the bigger and brighter the train, the more fit and healthy the male appears to the females. It's a classic example of sexual selection at play.
So the males are all about showing off, making a statement,
Yeah.
but the females are a lot more subdued, aren't they?
Yeah, you see a big difference between the sexes. It's called sexual dimorphism.
Sexual what now?
Sexual dimorphism. It just means that males and females of a species can look quite different. In the case of peacocks, it's all about survival.
Right, so the female peacocks, the peahens, they need to blend in while nesting. Right, protect those eggs.
Exactly. Those muted brownish colors help them camouflage themselves, so they've evolved to prioritize protection over flashy displays. It's kind of fascinating how different evolutionary pressures shape their appearances.
Yeah, it's like they each have their own unique strategy for success.
Hmm.
But, I think what I find really fascinating about peacocks is their cultural significance. They're not just pretty birds. They represent all sorts of things in different cultures around the world.
Oh yeah, for sure. In Hindu mythology, the peacock is associated with Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom and knowledge.
So they're not just about beauty, they're about brains, too.
Right, and in India, they're considered a sacred animal. They're even the national bird.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's really interesting how they've been woven into the fabric of these cultures. And in Buddhism, peacocks are a symbol of compassion and transformation.
Compassion and transformation.
Yeah. There's this belief that they can eat poisonous plants without being harmed. It's seen as a representation of their ability to turn negativity into something positive. Pretty powerful imagery, right?
Yeah, pretty amazing. So it's not just in Eastern cultures, right? Western cultures have their own peacock symbolism, too.
Oh, absolutely. They've popped up in Western art and literature for centuries. In ancient Greece and Rome, they were often associated with immortality, resurrection.
Immortality.
Yeah. And even pride. I mean, think about it. They kind of strut around like they own the place.
That's true. So all this talk of poisonous plants, do scientists know why they can eat them? Like, what's the evolutionary advantage there?
Well, that's a question researchers are still trying to figure out. One theory is that it might have something to do with building up immunity to certain toxins. Maybe it gives them some protection against predators. It's a fascinating area of research.
It's like they have this hidden superpower that we're only just beginning to understand.
Right. So much mystery is still surrounding these birds. And it makes you wonder, what else don't we know?
Okay, so beyond the symbolism, beyond the mysterious diet, what's everyday life like for a peacock?
Well, they're actually quite adaptable. They can thrive in a range of habitats, from forests and woodlands to more cultivated areas. And they're omnivores. They're not picky eaters at all.
So what's on the menu for a peacock?
Oh, they'll eat grains, fruits, insects, even small reptiles if they can catch them. They're opportunistic eaters, that's for sure.
Not afraid to try new things. I
Hmm.
like it. But, I've also heard they can be a bit loud.
Oh, yeah. Their calls are definitely attention grabbing, and they can get pretty territorial, especially during mating season.
So maybe not the best neighbors if you're looking for peace and quiet.
Yeah, that might be a bit of a challenge. And sometimes those territorial instincts can lead to conflict with humans, especially if they're living in close proximity. It's something to be mindful of.
That brings us to the question of conservation. Now, I know they're not currently considered endangered, but are their populations facing any threats?
Habitat loss is definitely a concern, and sadly, so is poaching. People still value those beautiful feathers, unfortunately.
Which is heartbreaking because those feathers are what make them vulnerable in the first place. It's like a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it really is. And while they're not globally threatened, their numbers are declining in some areas. So conservation efforts are crucial. Things like protecting their natural habitats, educating people about their importance, that kind of thing.
It's a reminder that even a creature as seemingly abundant and resilient as the peacock needs our help. We have a responsibility to protect these incredible creatures and the ecosystems they're a part of.
Absolutely. We can't take their survival for granted. I think that's an important takeaway from all this.
I agree. So before we wrap up, I have one last question for you and for our listeners. What do you think people should keep in mind the next time they see a peacock?
I think it's about seeing beyond the surface. That flash of iridescent color, it's just the beginning. The peacock's story is a tapestry of evolution, culture, ecological adaptation, and even human impact.
And for our listeners, here's a thought to ponder. Are there any conservation efforts for peacocks happening in your local area? What about other birds? What fascinating stories might they have to tell?
You explore, do a little digging. You might be surprised at what you uncover.
You might just find yourself going down a deep dive of your own. And you never know where that might lead you.